We might, we may.
Wouldn't that push us over the average?
It would push you over the edge.
Yeah.
Or pushes me over the edge. First thing, we're talking about percents. Not like we haven't done percents before, but please, I'm gonna write down a couple different problems and then throw a couple things at you. Here's one. What number is 125% of 48? Another question, edit Marco. And the other one I want to throw at you is this. Holy cow. 59.5 is what percent of 17? Anybody know what I'm going to tell you? Percents, Evelyn?
Percent box.
Okay, yes. Percent box would be my first thought to you. However, I don't want to overcomplicate this in the sense of the first problem. You can do a percent box for the first problem, but the first problem is really easy to do. Why? Because, Evelyn?
You have your 90%, yeah. They
Well,
get 225,
you have this right here. This is just this times this. I mean, the word of is already there. That doesn't happen in the second one because you have of there, but you got numbers here and it's a little goofier. I mean, this one you just change this to a decimal. Make sure you always do that, or a fraction. By the way, this one I might change to a fraction because it goes evenly to 48. What fraction is 125%? You know, it's 1.254, 5/4 times 48. Go to the 12, your answer is going to be 60. Now, if you don't get that, you're always welcome to go back to Mr. Percent Box. And again, the percent box, if you need a refresher on percent box, it simply is going to be this. You got your total, which is always going to be 100%. You can fill that in before you even start anything. And then you just fill in the rest of the stuff here. You know, what do we got here? 59.5 is what percent of 17? 59.5 is what percent of 17? Ooh, now see, that looks a little goofy there, doesn't it?
Yes.
What is my final number?
17.
17. That's what I end up with. This is going to be interesting. Maybe we can't do that this way. Okay, make sure we can. 59.5 is just one of these numbers over here. And you want to know what percent that is. Oh, wait, sorry. Tell me I put that in the wrong box. 59.5 is actually the real number. And I want to know what percent that is. Now let's see if that works out. Some of you may be looking at this and grinning or snickering because why? 59 is actually higher than 17, right? So your percent is going to be more than 100 because 17 is what percent of 17 would be 100%. So you're going to have something bigger. But let's see what it works out as a fraction. N over 100 equals 59.5 over 17. How am I going to do that?
Cross multiply.
Sure. You're going to get 17 times n is going to equal, what is that, times 100? 5950, right? Please tell me you remember that when you multiply by that, you move the decimal too quickly. So your answer is whatever you get when you put 17 into 5950. How about this? 3 goes into that, 51 times 85 is 5. And you have this 0 left over. So your answer is 350%. That's kind of a goofy one, but the fraction box breaks down a little bit here because These two are supposed to add up to 100, so if that was the case, Faith, my top would have to be, negative 250, which doesn't make a lot of sense. And this one, these two are supposed to add up to 17, and so this one would also be a negative, what, 42.5. So it breaks down a little bit in that sense, but you can still do it for the part that you need. You know, another way you could have thought about it is you could have just changed this into an equation if that floats your boat. 59.5 equals what percent times 17. It's the same thing. And solving for n, how would you solve for n? You would divide by 17, right? What am I going to get if I divide 59.5 by 17? You should know. You don't get 350, obviously.
100.
35.
You don't get 35.
3.5.
You get 3.5. But you have to remember, that is not a percent. You need to change it to a percent, and that's where the 350 comes in. That's why sometimes the fraction box is your easier, whatever bet. But I'll let you pick whatever thing you want to do for that. Now, here we go. Another blank piece of paper. This is my favorite. We talked about this before. Under rational expressions, and guess what the little subheading is? Simplifying them. This is where you'll really learn something today. Everybody ready with the following excitement?
No.
Yes, sir. No, it's ready.
Here we go. 2x squared minus 10x over, ladies and gentlemen, 4x squared plus 6x. And the directions tell you to simplify. By the way, why do you suppose it's called rational expressions, Carter Westfall? When math people use the word rational, everybody knows generally it's kind of a mathematical glorified way to say what? The definition of a rational number is all numbers that can be expressed as a fraction. Okay. Any rational number you can make a fraction. So when they start talking about fractions, they like to use the word rational expressions because they're fractions. Okay, you're not going to get imaginary numbers, you're not going to get the irrational numbers, you're not going to get repeating decimals that never end and never repeat. Anyways, back to this. If you're asked to simplify this, this goes back to something I told you not so very many moons ago. What can I cross cancel? Evelyn,
2x.
you cannot. Keep going. Wait, I'm not going to ask you because you always ask. Amelia, what can I cross cancel right now?
The 2 and 4.
That I cannot. Westfall.
The x.
No. Grant? Not. All right, Tyler.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Not factors.
Because, listen, children, do you want to hear a secret? These are not factors of each other. You cannot cross top things and fractions unless it's a multiplication problem. And you can't say this is this times this because you have to look at this as a whole big group. You need to come up with expressions that are times themselves before you can cross cancel. I just can't go, oh, 2 and 2 and cross it up. What you need to do before you do any of this is you need to see what you can factor. Because if you can make them factors of each other's, then you can cross cancel things out. So you look at top and you say, all right, I have this two-termed expression, 2x squared minus 10x. What can I factor out of 2x squared and a 10x?
2x.
2x. So you do that. You take a 2x. Now notice these are actually both factors of each other. 2 times x is what it is. And you are taking that out of this, which leaves you with a x minus 5. Correct? Take 2x out of both of those. And understand, now, if I come up with a 2 on the bottom, I can cross it out. If I come up with an x on the bottom, I can cross it out. If I get a term that is x minus 5 on the bottom, I could cross out the x minus 5 too. But it has to be an x minus 5 in parentheses. What can I take out of the bottom?
2x.
A 2x, again. A 2 and an x. And if I take a 2x out, I'm left with, it looks like a 2. 2 times 2 is
Another
4.
x.
And an x. And a 3. Now, once you get it to be factors of each other, then you can cross out. So Evelyn, I have to apologize to you because you said you could take a 2 out, but I just wanted to get my point across that you were going to get it right at the end because you weren't thinking this, were you? All right, so this crosses off with this, x crosses off with this, nothing else crosses off because again, the only way this is going to cross off is if you get a 2x minus 3 on top. The only way this is going to cross off is you get an x minus 5 on bottom in parentheses. So simplified, this is x minus 5 over 2x plus 3. That would be to simplify it. By the way, they'll also ask you to say what can't you get for x that would make this a fraction that would give you a 0 on the bottom. X could not be 0 because if you put zeros in down here, you get a 0 on the bottom. This one would be tougher. What can't x be here?
Still 0.
No. If I put a 0 in there, I get
Negative
a 3 on
3.
the bottom. If I put a negative 3 in there, I get a negative 3 on the bottom.
Negative 1.5.
Negative 1.5. Darn him, how does he come up with that?
2.5.
What would give you a 0 down here?
1.5.
If you don't know, people, this is why you have math. When will 2x plus 3 give you a 0? Subtract your 3, subtract your 3, divided by 2, divided by 2. You can't get a negative 3 halves, which is 1.5 that you so belligerently spouting out.
Sounds right.
X cannot equal either one of those, if they ask you that. I mean, at whatever math, they'll ask you that sort of stuff,
Why don't we have a math team anymore?
because they don't have a math contest anymore. Now, the closest you're gonna get is Scholastic Bowl, because I've heard them have some pretty serious math questions on that.
Yeah.
You ready? I feel like you are ready for something that could be life-altering and world-changing. And I'm not gonna give Tyler one that the book has an answer to, because I see him looking.
I am looking, you're right.
Oh, here we go. Ready? 4x plus 28. 4x plus 28 over 3x squared plus 21x. 3x squared plus 21x. Shall I give you a second to try that, or shall I do it for you? Shall I hold your hand like I have been, or do you think you can at least try something on your own? Ooh, I like that. People don't plan to fail, they just fail to plan. Did you know that?
Oh, I saw that recently.
Did you? That's as old as anything, but.
Right.
Are you looking for your retirement? Because that's usually where it comes up.
No, I was getting my classes at the
Oh.
high school in the
How'd that go?
office. Pretty well, actually.
Did you sign up for
Classes do
APB
it.
classes?
APP.
AP, Advanced Placement?
I don't know.
Honors?
I did honors, but no AP.
Can you get AP in front? That's
I
a
don't think you can go.
Yeah, Isabel,
Yes,
you
you
can.
Oh no, you get AP Human Geography, I think so.
It's about doing AP.
That makes no sense. Give me geography.
I don't know.
I
why
did
you-
it.
Isn't that just
I don't know. Is that
Hard to look
geography of
for.
the human body, or is that geography of
School.
where humans are?
Or,
I don't know.
AP first, that's all.
You should be done. I don't believe there's a lot that can be factored out of that, or if there is anything that can be factored out of this.
There is one thing.
Oh, there is.
Yeah.
If you were factoring, what can you take out of the top? A 4. Take a 4 out of the top, you're left with x plus 7. Now again, hoping against hope, ladies and gentlemen, the only way anything is going to cross off is if you get something that can cancel out with a 4, a 2, or a 4 on the bottom, or a x plus 7 in parentheses. If you get that on the bottom, in parentheses, you can cross cancel those. Well, looky here. Look what the book does. What can you take out of these? A 3x, 3 times x. And what is 3x going to give you? Nothing but an x plus a 7, to which there should be great rejoicing because you have an x plus 7 that goes away. The 4 and the 3 can't, so you're left with 4 over 3x. Congratulatory. Distakuten over the spot.
Languages are
So that would be Slinglish.
Talk like the
By the way, what cannot x be there? In both cases, it doesn't matter.
0.
On lunch.
All right, I'll give you one more. If you're looking in the book, 272, letter G, 2 pi RH, 2 pi RH over, plus 2 pi r squared over pi r squared h. In the directions again would say simplify. What can you simplify there? Holy cow. .43's in this whole mess. We got something?
I think I'm stumped.
Well, something factors out, obviously.
Yeah,
yeah,
I did it to
but-
factor out.
I think I did it wrong, is what I'm saying.
You did what?
I think I did it wrong.
Wow. Tyler Connor admitting he's wrong.
I've done that before.
What can you factor out on this? A 2,
2
a
pi
pi,
r.
and an r. A 2,
You can't have friends.
a pi, an r. You take that out, you're left with an
H.
h and a plus an r. And then, remembering that r squared is r times r, obviously this pi, so that pi. You have 2 r's here, one of them is going to cross off at this one right there. Nothing else cross cancels, so typically what they'll want you to do, if you're left with the r and the h on the bottom, and then generally you would remultiply that. It doesn't, I guess it doesn't really matter. What did they actually do? They just left it factored. So 2 times h plus r. If you put 2h plus 2r, it'd be kind of the same thing. But that is as much as you can do. And neither r could be 0, nor could h be 0. Otherwise you'll get bad stuff on the bottom. Wonderful. Your assignment for tomorrow. I think we've made some serious progress today.